All right. So the function of the muscular system. All right. So, all right. So a Z disc is a protein structure. Okay. We're not going to worry too much about this, but I do want to kind of quickly go over it. Okay. So individual actin filaments. Okay. So if you look here on the end of, let's see if I can get it. There we go. All right. So what you're seeing there, you see little dots inside red circles inside the pink circle. Okay. So what this is, let's see if I get it. All right. So let's just say this is a muscle. Okay. And right here, we have the tendon. We have the full tendon right here. Each of these little circular things inside is called a fascicle, okay? It's surrounded by layers of connective tissue, okay? And there are 10 to 100 muscle cells in them, okay? Individual muscle fibers have multiple nuclei and a large number of mitochondria in them. And tiny structures in there called microfibrils run parallel to one another down the length of the muscle fibers. They are composed of thick filaments made of myosin and thin filaments made of actin, and they repeatedly overlap to create striations and stuff like that. Okay, so here is a typical muscle cell. Okay, you don't have to know that too much, so don't worry. All right. So the actin. So the function, how does a muscle contract? Okay, well, the actin filaments, which look like twisted beads, they're connected at one end by a protein structure called the Z disc. Okay, and it forms the edges of a sarcomere, excuse me, and it's the function, the functional unit of a muscle contraction. Okay. Actin filaments alternate with myosin filaments, so they are partially overlapping each other. Okay. The myosin filaments have tiny structures called heads that resemble the head of a golf club. If you look on page 22 and 423, there's a lot of detail in here and some diagrams that would better help, so you have visual for it. Okay. The myosin filaments in a sarcomere are connected to each other at the midpoint, called the M disc. Okay, so that helps with muscle contraction. The connection between the myosin filaments pulling the actin filaments occurs in multiple sarcomeres and multiple microfibrils and multiple muscle fibers. Okay, and so fibers, when a bunch of fibers contract, then you get muscle movement. Okay, and it requires a lot of ATP. Okay, it has to pull its neighboring actin filaments. They contain a high number. The muscle fibers contain a high number of mitochondria, which are powerhouses of the cell. Okay, and they're doing this because they have to process all this ATP at once. Okay. When you exercise vigorously, your muscles use up a lot of ATP, and if they use it all up, then you can actually get lactic acid fermentation, and that would lead to a muscle cramp because your muscle doesn't have that energy that it needs to work. Okay, you can get out of breath, you can get a muscle cramp, etc., etc. Exercising your muscles does cause them to enlarge again, and this is good. That's how you get your muscle strength. Okay. An antagonistic pair when you're working and making a movement. So like if I flex like this, okay, let's see if I can do that. Okay, so as I'm flexing right here, one set of muscles is pulling one way and one is pulling the other way. Okay, and that's called an antagonistic pair. So when I'm flexing right here, the biceps right here, they are contracting. Okay. So the triceps right here are relaxing, okay? And if you ever notice, if you flex your arm, you notice it's tight up here and it's relaxed down here. Now, if I were to do this, okay, the triceps are tight, but the biceps are relaxed. So those are antagonistic pairs, okay? So the main muscle is called the primer mover, and the other muscles that assist the primer mover are called synergists, and those just help. So the biceps would be the prime mover, and the muscles around it would be the synergists. Okay. All right. So the human body interacts with all kinds of other systems. Okay. The hardest working muscle of the body is your heart. Okay. And you can actually, it works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 366 days, 365 days a year unless the leap year. But if you wanted to calculate it, then, you could do that. Okay. So taking my average heart rate or my heart rate, we can actually calculate how many beats my heart would beat in my lifetime. Okay. So the average heart rate that I have is about 66 beats per minute, which is really good. Okay. So if I have 60 beats per minute, okay, that would be times 60 minutes for 1 hour. That's 3,960 beats in 1 hour times 24 for 1 day would give us 95,040 beats per day. If I multiplied that by 365, that would be 34,689,600 beats in 1 year. Now, if I went with the average lifespan of 80 years, okay, from the time I was born, not including the development time in the womb, if I multiplied it by 80, okay, this is how many beats my heart would have beat per year. That'd be, let's see, 2,755,168,000 times. So, with no breaks, your heart stops beating, that's a problem. Okay, so it has to be strong and it can't stop working. So your heart is a good thing to have. It's good for it to be a workaholic, so to speak. All right. All right, so that's chapter 21, guys. I'm going to let you go to answer your review questions. So please do that and get that submitted before the end or before the beginning of the next class. Have a good day.